when we talk about insurance, a lot of people just think, okay, you are talking about leaving money for my beneficiaries when I pass on, which is correct, yes, right? But there are other advantages, or there are other avenues that are available that are still through insurance, where you have the ability to enjoy or to have both those death benefits as well as living benefits. And that is where whole life insurance comes in.
Welcome to the Share the Wealth Show, where minority professionals can learn to escape the racial wealth gap and catapult themselves into abundance. Your host, Nicole Pendergrass, grew her net worth from being negative to multiple six figures. Join her on her investigative mission to expose secret strategies of the wealthy, so we can all have the tools needed to build the life and legacy we were created to possess. Now it's time for the show.
All right, we have a special episode today. Thank you all for coming back and joining us at the Share the Wealth Show. This is the show where we discuss strategies on how to build, grow, and protect minority wealth. And today is, I don't even know if our guests today know it, but Mr. Lee Johnson is our first repeat guest in the show. Like, we're making moves and milestones here. But he also brought with him someone who is phenomenal, and I know is going to steal the spotlight today, his wife, Eunice Johnson. And we have a whole different topic to talk about today. So I know you guys, if you have listened to Lee's previous episode, it was episodes 44 and 45. If you have not listened to it, go back and listen to it, because he drops some major gems there. But in the case that you have not listened to it, or you have listened to it, don't just assume this is the same kind of episode. This is going to be completely different. You're going to get different gems that you're going to need to combine with what he said before, so that you can propel your investing career forward and really build wealth. And this is a very complementary strategy to what we were already discussing. So, hi Lee, hi Eunice. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Nicole. And yes, thank you for inviting us, and thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice. Okay. So actually, super random question. What's the biggest lie that you once believed was true?
Whoa, you're going in deep.
Yeah.
Well, if I was to start by answering that question, and there's so many big lies that are there, but I'm going to keep it in the context of real estate. And when I transitioned into multifamily real estate, it was that I could do it in similar fashion to what I did around single family. I could do it all on my own. And what I realized after trying to do multifamily all on my own was that I would have much more success when I teamed up with people in order to do multifamily. So I would say that that is the biggest myth. Of course, one could probably do it all by themselves, but it has been my experience that you get things done faster when you can form the team concept, and that also introduces to sharing.
Mm-hmm. And I would say, for me, the biggest lie I was told pretty much from childhood is, when you grow up, just find a job, a well-paying job, and you are all set for the rest of your life. And I believed that 100%, until later on in life, when I was like, there is absolutely no way this is how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And I had to pull back, pivot, and say, I need to relook all this stuff, because, my folks, my parents, aunts, and things like that, they still believe that. So it was a matter of, okay, I'm not saying anybody is wrong or anyone is right, but for me personally, that's not for me. And that was just a lie that I felt like I should have been told that there are options, other options earlier on, then I would have probably considered other options earlier on. But nonetheless, I'm glad that I'm where I am and I've come to that realization all on my own, and I'm now in a different space.
I love that. Both of your answers actually. And the thing is we have to go through the journey for whatever reason. We were supposed to, we're meant to go
Yeah,
through the journeys that we end up going through. Even if we think that they are roundabout ways or because shaved off so much time and without going this one route, but all those experiences lead up to building like who we are,
yeah,
and they help, contribute to the story that we have and the why we have moving forward. And the good thing is, now we can impart those other options to our children moving
yeah,
forward. And each generation does a little bit better, has a little bit more knowledge, and helps the next generation so that, over time, things will start to shift in what the kind of standard that everybody believes is. I mean, there'll be new lies in the future. So
yeah,
I don't know. We have no idea what those will be. But in any
yeah,
case, having everything right now, I think that your lie is something that like 99% of America, probably the world, believes. Same one for me as well. Get a good job, good education, retire with benefits, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so in any case, so
But
what?
Nicole,
Oh,
before you move off that
yeah.
point, there were a couple of nuggets in there that I think we have to make sure are emphasized, right? And in our community, I know how your podcast, your platform is targeting a specific demographic. And the one thing that we have to talk about is building upon what the generation before us have created,
mhm,
right? In our community, I believe too often we're starting at point zero, right? We're having to build all over again, build all over again. And my goal in my platform is all about giving them one leg up. If I can give the generation coming behind me and probably the generation after that one leg up, that would be the goal so that they're not starting over at point zero as well.
mhm.
I don't even know if I started at point zero. I might have been at point -5 before we got started because my parents had no clue about how the monetary system, their personal economy worked, right? And my job is to make sure that the generation behind me, they understand it at the same time.
Mhm.
Well, amen to that, because I don't even know what to add, because you said everything right there. It's basically like
Yeah,
not letting the next generation start at zero and take all those years, because we know wealth building is a long-term journey, it's a marathon, and it could take a few decades to really build up to something that's substantial. Why make your children go, or your children's children go through those same decades where we can shortcut that path by introducing them earlier to these other concepts, have given them a foundation of finances to pull from to be able to do, what they need to do. Um, I could go on fully left field with this. I know one thing that pops into my mind is doing that in a way where you're not creating entitlement
yeah,
or like trust fund kind of attitude. So how do we do both?
yeah,
Chores,
Yes, okay. Got it.
and that everything is not going to be laid out to you, right? And having them build accountability and ownership and having a level of appreciation for some of the amenities that life has been bestowed upon them. But also, one of the things that are you probably unique to our experience is the fact that we probably have some family members who aren't doing as well as we may be doing wherever we are, right? And also for them to go back and see this is where we started, right? Going back to the projects and seeing, oh, people actually live like this,
mhm,
right? Um, we could have an understanding of our reference point. but also going to other places where they get to build out their vision for where it is that they want to be. I'm constantly asking our 10-year-old, tell me about your future. Where do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a doctor? But I'm not always suggesting that she do those traditional roles. Do you want to be an artist? Do you want to be a dancer? Right? Because we send her to dance school as well. So getting her thinking about the future is one goal that I have. Of course, I'm not entitled to have her carry out my wishes. I just have to do a job up until she's probably 18 and let her go off on the world and explore on her own.
Looking to build wealth with real estate? Are you all tapped out on YouTube University and ready to get help tailored to your specific situation and goals? Have you always known that you are a little different from the crowd, that you never liked following the status quo, and that you're just tired of living in mediocrity? You want to build wealth on your own terms outside of Wall Street? Well, then maybe the Microfamily Mavericks Mentorship Program can help with that. It's a community where I handhold you through the process of buying your first small commercial multifamily building, because not everyone is ready for 100 units out the gate. Why multifamily? Because it gives your rental income a hedge against vacancy. Imagine what happens when your single family rental tenant leaves, right? And why commercial 5+ units? Because you have much more control over increasing the building's value in the commercial space, and then in turn, increasing your own net worth. Starting small is a stepping stone to so much more, because then you can tap that equity and buy another building and another and another, and you get the point. So increasing your cash flow and your ability to be job optional along the way. It's all a part of the journey. So if you think big, but you want to start small, and if you know multifamily real estate is the way for you to open the door to building a life of freedom, abundance, and legacy, but you just need someone to guide you step by step, and you want to be surrounded by other people on the same journey, doing the same thing, then just click the link in the show notes to find out a little bit more about the Microfamily Mavericks, and I look forward to potentially seeing you on the inside. So now back to the show.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, it's very important that we really take the time to communicate these things in the simple terms so that our kids and others understand it. I can sit here and have a conversation with you, Nicole, because there's a level of understanding that I know you would grasp from certain conversations, but I can still have the same conversation with my 10-year-old and make it such that she understands as well. Because at the end of the day, they have to understand that they are where they are because there's hard work to it. So I want to make sure that on those long nights when I have to be working, they are aware and they know why I'm working, and they see me working and they see the results after, right? So we want to involve them to make sure that, they are just not sitting back on the passenger seat and getting everything and then are like, okay, we got it all. No, they have to understand that, hey, you have to work for these things and you have to put yourself out there and make sure that whenever there are opportunities for you to learn from us so that you can potentially avoid making the same mistakes that we probably did. And it all boils down to just having those honest conversations and making sure that they are part of the business and they are part of what we are doing right now. My 10-year-old the other day was saying to me, Mommy, all these meetups that you do and you share this information free, I'm just surprised that sometimes people don't come as much, or people will say they're coming and then they don't come. I think you share a lot of valuable information. And that hit me differently because I felt like, she's 10 and she recognizes the content that we put out there. right? And she is inquisitive and wants to learn because she finds that, oh, this is interesting. How did you get to be here? How did you even know all this stuff? So we have to constantly be communicating with them, sharing with them so that they understand, and we can hopefully instill that seed in them so that when they're now grown-ups, they can continue with the teachings that we've shared and that they've seen us live through.
Yes, I love it. And I think, and that's what I try to do with my daughters as well, like just letting them know, mommy, right now, mommy has two jobs. Sometimes I leave and I go out to work at one job, and sometimes I'm here on my computer, but that's my other job. And that I'm, buying real estate. And so that you guys have real estate, and I've taken them to the buildings before, and you know what I mean? Like, and try to explain things to them and giving them that kind of that overview. And asking them questions about, what kind of, do you want to start a business? What kind of business do you want to start with your sister or whatever? And like, so they have other things. Like one time they want to do an icy ice cream shop, like a mix, one part is ices and one part is ice cream because they like both. I'm like, all right, great. Like how can we kind of facilitate that? So
Yeah.
it's just like even having those smaller conversations or
Yeah.
doing it in a bite-sized manner, because my struggle point is my daughters are 4 and 6. And so they're getting older, they understand, but still trying to distill those concepts down in a way that they kind of grasp. But my hope is that even just all these little seeds and nuggets that I show and share with them over the years, at some point they're going to be 20 something and they'll be like, well, I don't know how or why I know this thing. I just always knew it. Like it's gonna be just so instilled. It's
Yeah.
just gonna be part of like something that is a baseline that they assume everybody knows. You know what I mean? But they won't realize that that's like actually information that most people don't understand or grasp. But anyway,
Have
great
it be
stuff.
common. Have concepts like infinite banking just be the normal, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the things with infinite banking that we struggle with sometimes is the education factor of why one should see that there's value in doing the banking concept using cash value life insurance. That's one of the things that we have struggled with in the past, but this is our mission, right?
Okay.
And
And that's what I was gonna say. Let's just jump into that.
yeah,
So what is infinite banking, family banking, cash value life? Like everyone knows cash value life insurance, but to be honest, a lot of people cash value or whole life insurance gets a bad rap a lot of times because a lot of people don't understand. And I think the way it's traditionally set up does have some like negative qualities as like too much money that you need to put out of pocket. Um, we'll get into and I know the argument for both, do term and then invest the difference, and then by the time your term is over, you should have all these investments. We're going to dig into all that, like why that doesn't actually work and why whole life insurance in an infinite banking way is different and how you guys use it. Let's just jump into everything. So who wants to take the horn?
I'll leave it to
Right.
the expert.
All right. So for me, if I was to start this off, and how I would like people or your audience to view cash value insurance is that for us as a family on a yearly basis or 2 times a year, we sit down and we work on our personal financial statement. And when you look at your personal financial statement, you'll realize that it's built up largely based off of your assets and your liabilities, right? Now, when you look at your assets, there are so many options there. So, what I want people to grasp is okay, when you look at all the possibilities of assets out there, where is it that you find that you have investments or you have those asset classes, and what are you doing about the other asset classes that you don't have? Because a lot of times you find that people will say, okay, I have money, I've got savings. Okay, that's one. What else? Right? Oh, I have a 401k. Okay, what else? And they're like, oh, that's about it. right? So when you sit down and look at your personal financial statement, you will realize that there are so many possibilities. And all we're saying is that you have to be in a position where you don't necessarily have to do everything, right? But you have to have investments in at least a number of all those to make sure that you are really fully set for your future. And insurance is a large component of that.
Are you enjoying this episode? Then stop what you're doing right now. Head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It really helps our show get pushed to more people who are looking for the information that we're sharing here. We have to share the wealth. If you listen to us on YouTube, make sure you like the episode that you're listening to right now and subscribe to our channel. Then share the channel with somebody else. There are people out there looking for the information you're listening to right now. So make sure you share it with someone who you know needs it. Now, back to the show.
Now, insurance, a lot of times when we talk about insurance, a lot of people just think, okay, you are talking about leaving money for my beneficiaries when I pass on, which is correct, yes, right? But there are other advantages, or there are other avenues that are available that are still through insurance, where you have the ability to enjoy or to have both those death benefits as well as living benefits. And that is where whole life insurance comes in. Whole life insurance, or cash value insurance, that has been set up appropriately for your needs, is going to cater for that. You are going to enjoy both living benefits as well as death benefits, right?
So living benefits. That means when I'm alive.
Yes. So basically, living benefits takes away what you hear a lot, where people say, well, this means that only the people who are left behind once I pass on are the ones who are going to benefit. But a living benefit is saying, as you are alive today, you can start reaping those benefits. And those benefits are what we call the cash component of your cash value insurance. Those are benefits that you can today, as Nicole said, you know what, I need financing, or I need to do a couple of projects. Where can I go to get assistance? You don't have to go anywhere. You can use your own living benefit to use that. And that's what we are looking to educate people on, to say, you can use that today. You don't have to die first.
Okay. So with cash value of the policy, that's really the primary living benefit that I can utilize from my life insurance policy. Okay. So I know I'm going to just attack one of the arguments against whole life insurance. It takes a long time to build up cash value, and two, that it's expensive with higher premiums. Now, what can you say about those two issues when it comes to the infinite banking that would still let someone feel like it's worth doing and not having to wait 20 years for my cash value to be of substance? Like, why should I put money out of instead of maxing my 401k, why should I put some of that money into the premiums of a whole life policy?
Can I start off on that one, Eunice, before we go? Because the one misnomer that is out there is that you shouldn't contribute to your 401, or this is a vehicle in an alternative to that. I would say that the cash value component, or the life insurance component, is a saving vehicle, not an investing vehicle, right? So having had a W-2 before, I would say you want to maximize what you're contributing to your 401k, right? I would say if there is another vehicle that you have, you would want to maximize those at the same time, even if it's going to be a Roth IRA, right? What I would say is that if you had to do like a 529 plan versus going with a cash value plan, I would recommend that you go with the cash value plan, because if you were to do a 529, that's going to be with your child, right? And if they use the monies to go to school, fine and dandy. But what happens if they don't, right? With the cash value component, I understand the new legislation is that the 529 can convert over to a Roth, right? But that means that those monies will not be accessible until they're 59 and a half. However, if they had leveraged a whole life insurance policy, they would be able to leverage that cash value component as and when they decided to use it. So it's not really apples to apples comparison. There are just different strategies that one could employ in order to grow their family bank. The last point of that I would put on this before I hand it over to Eunice is that we all have financing needs. We all need to purchase something. If it's a new vehicle or something else, we have financing needs. The question that I ask is whether or not if you're going to build your family bank and have interest be paid there, or whether or not if you're going to give that to one of the commercial banks and have it paid to them. Final point is that if you pay the interest to the mutual insurance company, they're going to pay you a dividend, which then helps with your family bank and its growth. So that's the last misnomer that I have out there, and I'll pass it off to Eunice.
Yeah. And what I like to say with that one also, Nicole, is that Rome was never built in a day. So I don't want people to have the perception that, okay, if I'm going to do a whole life insurance, I want all that cash in a year or two, right? That is a wrong perception. The same way as you have, I've been an employee before, right? I had a W-2 before. And even though I had that job for more than 10, 15 years, in that time, I can genuinely tell you the savings that I was able to maintain or keep in my accounts does not compare to the savings that I was able to do with the whole life insurance policy. And I can elaborate on that a little bit later. The point here is that there's a saying, I forget how it goes, that all great or wonderful things take time. Nothing is just going to happen in a twinkle of an and it's there for you. Now, the other thing that I also want to talk about, where a lot of times you hear people say, well, why don't I just max out my 401k versus doing cash value life insurance? A couple of things. Whenever you are looking at doing a cash value life insurance, one of the things that I will sit down with you and look at you is run the numbers for you and with you so that we can understand how it fares, you putting more money towards a 401k and you putting a portion of some of your funds also into whole life insurance. And the way that works is that a lot of times there are people who, once you max out, your employer matches what you're putting out, right? And you'll find that that amount of money, right? If we were to calculate, okay, let's just do hypotheticals. If right now your employer is putting 5, you are putting in 4, and that's the whole amount that you're putting in towards your 401k. What we look at is when we run the numbers with you, we look at to see, okay, if you put that same amount, or if you just go with just the max or a certain portion of that, and then you use some of the amount that you would have put towards your 401k into your cash value life insurance, and then give it 5 or so years and see which one has accumulated more. It's all in the numbers. You will see that for yourself, and then you can make that decision as to, does it make sense for you? Now, it's good to have both. I'm not saying don't put money into your 401k, but you also want to look at the returns for both and just look at how both are performing, right? The second thing that you want to look at also is that realize that with a 401k, you will get taxed once you start drawing that money. A lot of times people will say, well, I'll get taxed, but I'll most likely be at a lower rate versus now when I'm a full-time employee, which is correct, right? Now, when you look at your cash value insurance, one, it has deferred tax. So what that means for you is that you are able to grow that money even more, right? With that deferred tax. So instead of you being taxed right now, you know that you will be taxed later on. And if you apply and use it correctly, you can potentially not even be taxed. And here's the thing, here's why. Because when you use your cash value, when you use those funds, you are using a loan. You do not get taxed on a loan. But when you use your funds for your 401k, that is money that you're going to be taxed on. There's no way you can pull out money from that and not get taxed on it. But if I'm pulling money and using my loan to pay for a new car, I'm not going to be taxed on that loan. So those are some of the little things that you want to also look at as you are assessing, is it worth me doing just a 401k or maxing out my 401k versus doing a cash value life insurance.
Yeah, and that whole thing about being taxed at a lower rate when you pull out the money from your 401k, yeah, that's true if you plan on being poorer in your retirement,
Exactly.
which a lot of people don't realize that's what that means. It's because you don't have that job, it means you make less money. Okay, guys, don't kill me, but I'm going to have to cut this episode short. This is too juicy, and we need to do this in a part 2. So stay tuned for the next episode that airs, and you can hear the rest of our conversation.
Did you love this episode of Share the Wealth Show? Be sure to connect with Nicole by following her on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. If you picked up any of the gems that were dropped by today's guest, make sure you not only put them in your bag, but if you know of someone who would benefit from this information, don't keep it to yourself. Share the wealth and make sure to leave us a rating and review. We'll see you for next week's episode. Subscribe so you'll be notified.